Welcome to MTG Friends. I'm Zach, and today I've got another Commander deck to show off to you. Today it is a competitive Commander deck, so what this means is this is a deck that is very expensive and very fast. So, this is the kind of deck that if you really want to play it and you don't own all these cards in paper, proxy it. Go put it up on something like Cockatrice or play it on MTG Online. You know, find yourself a way to play this because this is some crazy, exciting stuff. Today we're going to be using two of the brand new partners from Commander Legends. We're going to be doing Dargo, the Shipwrecker, and we're going to be doing Jeska Thrice Reborn. Each of them have partner and very unique abilities that allow them to combine in a blisteringly fast, mono-red, competitive Commander deck. It's pretty simple. Dargo the Shipwrecker costs 6 and a red for a 7/5 with Trample and partner. He is a legendary giant pirate, but he also has this effect, and this is what makes him so competitive. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures. The spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrificed this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you've sacrificed this turn. So, with the right build around, you could potentially be getting Dargo down as early as turn 1, and it's something that this deck aims to do as much as possible. Dargo has a ton of ways to just go flying out on the board crazy early, an unstoppable 7/5 with Trample. And it's even better when you pair him up with Jeska. Jeska Thrice Reborn is 2 and a red for a legendary Jeska Planeswalker that comes in with what? Base 0 loyalty. She enters the battlefield, you see, with a loyalty counter on it for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Now you 0 her to choose target creature. Until your next turn, if that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. Minus X, Jeska Thrice Reborn deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. She can be your commander, and she has partner. Now notice that 0 triples someone's damage. Well, Dargo very coincidentally has 7 power, and the amount of commander damage you have to deal to somebody to make them lose the game is 21, and 7 times 3 is 21. So, that's a way to win the game pretty much the moment you can get Dargo to swing into somebody. If you can land a Dargo turn 1 and a Jeska turn 2 before anybody's even had time to set up defenses, you run the risk of just picking a player and knocking them right out of the game. So let's go ahead and go through this deck and talk about the various ways that you can win super fast. So first, to do that, we're going to go through our land base and our ramp base, and then we'll start talking about how to combo this deck out. So, lands, we are actually running 29 lands. The 29th is Shatterskull Smashing, which I have over here in the removal category. This flips into one of the Bolt lands from Zendikar Rising, but just having that like free flex slot of being able to play a land or a somewhat expensive removal spell, it was worth it to me. 3 life isn't really that much. Alright, so land-wise, we're running an Ancient Tomb. Tap, add colorless, deal 2 damage to you. Great! Arid Mesa, it's a fetch land. We're going to use it to go get one of our snow-covered mountains. And I'll talk about why we're running snow-covered in a little bit. Bloodstained Mire, same dice. Buried Ruin, tap to add a colorless, or 2 tap and sack it. Return target artifact from your graveyard to your hand. One of the key components of this deck is a specific artifact that we basically try to just ramp onto the board as fast as possible. And so Buried Ruin exists as a way to recur that. Command Beacon, you can tap it to add a colorless, or tap and sacrifice it to put a commander from your hand, into your hand from the command zone. Now this is here in case your commander costs get a little too high. This exists as a way to kind of sneak Jeska back into your hand and cast her for just 3. Dargo we're less worried about, but Jeska's the one we got to pay attention to. Crystal Vein, similar to Ancient Tomb, but you're just down the land, but the fact that it's going to add colorless, while also having the flexibility of being an untapped colorless source, isn't that bad. Darksteel Citadel is being played in this deck as a artifact that can be sacrificed to Dargo if necessary. Emergent Zone, tap to add a colorless, or 1 tap sack it. You may cast spells this turn as though they had flash. This is a way for us to kind of start to go off on another player's turn if the timing is working out best that way. Inventor's Fair, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more artifacts, gain a life. Tap, add a colorless. 4, tap sack it, search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. Activate this only if you control 3 or more artifacts. This is here entirely for that tutor ability. And here's one of the pieces that we need snow for, Mouth of Ronam. It's a snow land, you can tap it to add 1, or you can pay 4 and a snow mana, tap and sack Mouth of Ronam. It deals 4 damage to target creature. This is really just in there for the opportunity cost of having snow, and the fact that it's kind of a removal spell on a land if we really need it to be. Prismatic Vista, Scalding Tarn, and Wooded Foothills are other search effects, and then Scrying Sheets is the other snow piece that we use. It's a snow land, tap to add 1 to your mana pool, or 1 snow tap, look at the top card of your library. If it's snow, reveal it, put it into your hand. One of the cards that can work as a key combo piece in this deck is a snow card. And so Scrying Sheets allows us to dig for it a little bit. And then, like I mentioned, Shatter Skull Smashing right there gets us to our 29th. For some reason, it doesn't seem to be counting it. Or maybe I just have 28 in here. It's pretty sure it was 29. Since it says, 100 cards. Whatever. The point is we have a lot of lands, and it's very nice. Right. So that's our land base, and now we're going to have a look at our ramp base. And our ramp base is 22 cards long. And a primary reason for that is not all of the cards in here are primarily used for ramp. In fact, if it's an artifact in this grouping, which almost all of these are, it's actually used primarily as a sacrifice outlet for Dargo due to its cheap cost. You get an Arcane Signet, 2 mana, tap to add a red. That's literally what this will do in this deck. Great card. Arkham's Astrolabe. This card is immensely powerful in this deck because we're running Snowlands, and when it enters, you get to draw a card. So it replaces itself, and with that 1 tap, add a mana of any color, it allows you to fix some of those colorless mana cards that I was running directly into a colored mana, and then can be sacrificed to Dargo. Chromatic Star, pretty much the same thing. You can play it for 1, it taps to add a mana of any color, and then, when it puts into a graveyard, you draw a card. So, kind of the opposite of Arkham's Astrolabe. You play this one to draw the card, you sacrifice this one to Dargo to draw a card. Chrome Mox here allows you to add a mana of the exiled card's color to your mana pool, and you have to exile a card from your hand that isn't an artifact and isn't a land. This card is just really, really great, because it's a 0-cost artifact. And it allows you to potentially ramp. And even if you cannot ramp with your Chrome Mox, it's still a 0-cost artifact. It doesn't sacrifice itself or anything if you don't exile a card under it. And so it can still just be straight up sacked to Dargo. Dockside Extortionist is one of the most powerful ramp spells in mono red. 2 mana for a 1/2 Goblin Pirate. When he enters, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. What's especially amazing about Dockside Extortionist here is that those treasures are going to provide 3 mana towards casting Dargo. So you tap and you sacrifice your treasure. You make 1 red. You've also sacrificed an artifact or creature, in this case an artifact, which generates and it reduces Dargo's cost by 2. It doesn't actually generate mana. So a Dockside where just 2 opponents, 2 people control an artifact or an enchantment, you get 2 treasures, you sack them both, pay a red, there's a Dargo. Grim Monolith is in here, comes in for 2, and it taps to add 3. While it costs 4 to untap, you're probably never going to bother untapping it unless you've got some spare mana laying around, and instead, you use it to ramp an extra mana to get somebody like Dargo or Jeska out. Infernal Plunge is here for 2 reasons. For 1, it's pay a red, add red, red, red. Also, it requires you to sacrifice a creature, which is going to help you towards your game plan of paying for Dargo. You want to get all the bonuses you can out of sacrificing before you just use Dargo's sacrifice. Jeska's Will is a new card out of Commander Legends. For 2 and a red, you get a sorcery. Lets you choose 1, and if you control a commander as you cast it, you can choose both, which is add red for each card in target opponent's hand, and exile the top 3 cards of your library. You can play them this turn. So obviously we're going to be using that mana ramp ability most of the time, but if you have one of your commanders out and you're able to do both, who's going to be upset, You get up to draw 3 cards for the turn. That's really, really powerful. Jeweled Lotus is the new hotness out of Commander Legends, as you can see by the pricing on the extended art, apparently. Whew, that is expensive. Anyway, 0-cost artifact, tap, sack it, add 3 mana of any 1 color that can only be used to cast your commander. In a deck like this card is ridiculous. You're creating 3 red, and you're reducing Dargo's cost by 2. That's essentially paying for 5. Alternatively, and the way I really like to use this, is generate as much as I can for Dargo as part of the combo, and save 2 red from the Lotus to try and cast Jeska. But again, I'll talk about this combo as we get there. Lion's Eye Diamond, very similar to Jeweled Lotus, and also very similar to, Black Lotus. Lion's Eye Diamond is ridiculously powerful. You're going to use this card by pretty much emptying your hand as fast as possible, and then it's essentially just a free Black Lotus. Yeah, this card is nuts. Really, really powerful, and just like Jeweled Lotus is essentially generating 5 mana for something like Dargo. Lotus Petal, this essentially generates 3 mana for Dargo. 0 cost, tap, sack it, add a mana of any color. Mana Crypt, 0 cost, gives you 2 mana, and then you can sacrifice it whenever you need to Dargo. Mana Vault is 1 mana, it adds 3, and at the beginning of your upkeep you may pay 4 if you do untap it, and then beginning your draw step if it's tapped, it deals a damage to you. This again, you know, feel free to untap it if you ever feel the need, but if you don't, just sack it to Dargo. Mox Amber, this one's actually really helpful in this deck because 1, it's 0 cost, and 2, Dargo's so easy to get out so early that this is actually online a lot more than you'd think. Mox Diamond is in here. If it enters the battlefield, you may discard a land card, and if you do, put it onto the battlefield. If you don't, put it into its owner's graveyard. Tap, add a mana of any color. So you definitely need a land in hand to play this, but the amount of ramp that you can get out of this card, again, being an artifact, is really, really powerful. And then another Mox, Mox Opal. This is the 0 cost legendary artifact that has Metalcraft. So as long as you control 3 or more artifacts, you can tap it to add a mana of any color. Next up, we've got 2 rituals. Pyretic Ritual, 1 and a red for an instant that adds 3 red, and Seething Song, 2 and a red for an instant that adds 5 red. We've got Simian Spirit Guide, not Glide, Guide. It's an 8 boy, 3 mana for a 2/2, but you will never cast it for 3 mana for a 2/2. You're going to exile it from your hand to add red, every time. Skirk Prospector is 1 red for a 1/1, sack a goblin, add red. He essentially is a refund on his own ability and also generates you a red while reducing Dargo's cost by 2, and he can sacrifice the other goblins that are in this deck. Soul Ring is Soul Ring. Play Soul Ring. And then Treasonous Ogre. For 3 and a red for a 2/3 Ogre Shaman, he has Dethrone, which means whenever he attacks a player or players with the most life or is tied for the most life, put a 1/1 counter on him. But really the important part here is pay 3 life, add a red. As many times as you want, as long as you got the life for it. Treasonous Ogre is an insane way to kind of move your game plan forward. Alright, so I think it's about time we started talking about what the main combo in this deck is. Beyond just casting Dargo early and getting Jeska out, as you can see, we've got a ridiculous amount of ramp, so it's really quick to get Dargo out turn 1, Jeska out turn 2. 0 it, and Dargo kills somebody, but that's not our main game plan. We want to win on turn 2. We don't want to just knock somebody out. And so the combo here is an incredible card known as Phyrexian Altar. For 3 mana, you can sacrifice a creature to add 1 mana of any color. So here's how the combo works. You need to set up your board so that you are able to cast Dargo for just a red, which means you need to sacrifice either 2 treasures or 3 things. And you need to have your Phyrexian Altar on the board. So how this works, you sacrifice Dargo to Phyrexian Altar. You've now generated a red mana. However, you now send Dargo back to your command zone, right? So Dargo's in the command zone, ready to be cast again, but he's going to cost 2 more to cast. Except, what's this? Huh, you've sacrificed another thing this turn. You've sacrificed a creature. Dargo doesn't care that you just sacrificed Dargo, because that Dargo is not the same Dargo that's sitting in the command zone. No way. That Dargo's dead. He's sacrificed. But no, seriously, the way the game rules work is that objects in new zones are treated as completely brand new objects. And so sacrificing a Dargo to the Phyrexian Altar allows a newly cast Dargo to not recognize that, you know, they just cast the exact same card or sacrifice the exact same card. And so his cost will be reduced by 2 again. And since you've generated a red mana by sacrificing Dargo to the Phyrexian Altar, you can recast Dargo for a single red mana, sacrifice him to the Phyrexian Altar again, recast him for just the red you made, and over and over and over and over and over and over and over, blah, 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 a bajillion times. Why? Why would you do that? What benefit do you have to just casting Dargo a million times? You know, we're not playing cards like Perforos. I don't have any of that nonsense in here, and maybe I should, but I don't. I feel like they're a little too mana inefficient. So what benefit do you have of casting Dargo a million times? And the answer to that is Jeska. Remember, she enters the battlefield with a loyalty counter on it for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. And her little -X deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. So you cast Dargo as many times as you see fit, and then you cast Jeska, and you -X for 10,000, targeting each of your opponents for one of those 3 targets. And you just won the game. This can be done as early as turn 2 if you've got enough mana floating around. It is blisteringly fast. So, like I said, the rest of the deck is essentially set up to allow this to happen. We've got 4 to 5 stacks pieces in here to slow things down as well. We've got a Blood Moon, which is an enchantment for 3. Non-basic lands are mountains. Curse Totem, which is 2. Players can't play activated abilities of creatures. Thorn of Amethyst for 3, which makes your non-creature spells cost 1 more to play. Everyone's. And Trinisphere for 3, which is as long as Trinisphere is untapped, each spell that would cost less than 3 mana to cast costs 3 mana to cast. What's really helpful about Trinisphere, though, is you can sacrifice it to Dargo, and Dargo still doesn't have his cost raised. So Trinisphere is really helpful as a way to slow down your opponent's board while you're speeding up your own. Now, we're going to move out from our stacks here, and we're going to go into what our sacrifice outlets are. And not just our outlets, but also just helpful pieces to sacrifice. So we've got Impulsive Pilfer, brand new card, 1 mana, 1/1, Goblin Pirate. When he dies, make a treasure, and he has Encore, which means you pay 3 and a red in this case. Exile him from your graveyard. For each opponent, make a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn. And they gain haste. Sack him at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. So on its face, this is a 1/1 for 1 that when it dies gets us another thing we can sacrifice to Dargo. Granted, you can't sacrifice both the Pilferer and its treasure token to Dargo. That does not work that way. But the fact that it has Encore as well, later in the game, say you actually need those tokens, you absolutely can Encore your Pilferer, sack all 3 Pilferers, get 3 treasures, sack those 3 treasures. You know, Pilferer just provides a lot of bang for the buck. You've got Infernal Plunge here, which is a red, sack a creature for the plunge, add 3 red. Kuldotha Rebirth, 1 mana sorcery. It's additional cost to cast it, sack an artifact, put 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens onto the battlefield. Very helpful card. Get you 3 more pieces of sacrifice fodder, as well as providing a sacrifice on its own. Myr Retriever, 2 mana 1/1. When it dies, return another artifact from your graveyard to your hand. This is a protection piece for your Phyrexian Altar. There's the altar, we talked about this already. Skirk Prospector, we talked about already. Next up, we got Soul Guide Lantern. When it enters the battlefield, exile target card from a graveyard. Sack it for free to exile each opponent's graveyard, or 1-tap sack it, draw a card. This is in here for a couple of reasons. One, it's 1 mana that has the ability to draw you a card for an additional mana, or it allows you to exile each opponent's graveyard, and when it enters, it cherry picks something out of a graveyard. We've got Treasure Nabber in here, because nothing's funnier than your opponent tapping their mana artifacts, you getting control of them, and then you just sacrificing them to cast Dargo. And, of course, the law of Givesies Backsies is respected by every noble pursuer of shiny things. Except for me, I'm going to sacrifice all your stuff. And then there's Thermopod. This is the core reason that we are running cards like Scrying Sheets and all of those snow-covered mountains. It is a snow creature, a slug, for 4 and a red. You can pay a snow to give it haste. I'm never going to do that, because the important part is you can sacrifice a creature to add a red. This is another card that essentially acts exactly like Phyrexian Altar. It's just a little more expensive on the mana cost. But it can be found with Scrying Sheets, while Phyrexian Altar, we have some options to find it as well that we'll talk about in the draw section. But Thermopod is just, I guess he's our redundancy. He's our backup. If Phyrexian Altar goes away, we've got Thermopod to kind of help us out here. Let's talk about our removal and our recursion real quick. So removal, we've got By Force, which is X red, destroy X target artifacts. Chaos Warp, 2 and a red. Instant, owner of target permanent shuffles it into the library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent, put it on the battlefield. Lightning Bolt, it's Lightning Bolt. Pay a red, deal 3. Mog Salvage, 2 and a red. Instant, if an opponent controls an island and you control a mountain, you can play it for free. Destroy target artifact. We talked about Shatter Skull Smashing, and we got Thunderclap. 2 and a red. Instant, you can sacrifice a mountain instead of paying Thunderclap's mana cost. Deals 3. We've got cards like Bolt and Thunderclap in here because there are certain cards, usually creatures, that do really nasty things to turn off key components of our deck. And so, of course, we have put in some removal spells that are going to hopefully stop that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, we're going to get into our Recursion next. This is what happens if your Phyrexian Altar gets destroyed. Where do you turn to? You turn to Duretti. Scrap Savant. You basically play him and you -2 him. Sack an artifact, return an artifact from your graveyard to your hand. I mean, you can absolutely +2, which is discard up to 2, then draw that many. You can absolutely get to that ult somehow. If you ever get to that ult, congratulations. But That -2 is really the way you're trying to go here. Goblin Welder. He lets you choose target artifact a player controls, and target artifact in that player's graveyard. If both targets are still legal as the ability resolves, the player simultaneously sacrifices the artifact and returns the artifact card to the battlefield. So basically lets you go, I got a treasure, and there's a Phyrexian Altar. Bloop. Easy. Trash for treasure, 2 and a red sorcery. Sack an artifact as part of its cost, return artifact from your graveyard to the battlefield. Very similar to what Welder does, similar to what Duretti does. And then Underworld Breach, 2 and a red for an enchantment. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to that card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards. Sack an Underworld Breach at the beginning of the next end step. We don't really care about the sacrifice part. It's really just 2 mana. Cast a Phyrexian Altar out of your graveyard for 3 mana and exile 3. Now, we're going to talk about our draw spells here, and then we'll go into our suite of 0-cost spells that are going to help us get Dargo out faster. Get Cathartic Reunion, 1 and a red. Discard 2, draw 3. Gamble, tutor for a thing, discard a card at random, shuffle. Goblin Engineer is both a tutor and a recursion spell. And I put tutors into the draw area because you're kind of drawing a card. And I didn't want to make a second category. But when he enters, search your library for an artifact, put it into your graveyard, shuffle, red, tap, sack an artifact, return target artifact with CMC 3 or less. And very conveniently, Phyrexian Altar is 3. We've got Ichor Wellspring. This is a draw spell. It also is just a sacrifice me kind of card. Pay 2, enters the battlefield, draw a card. Put into the graveyard, draw a card. Great! Imperial Recruiter is 2 and a red for a 1/1 human advisor. When he enters, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand. Very conveniently, cards like Goblin Engineer have 1 power. So really, this is kind of a tutor chain. You play Recruiter to get an Engineer to get a Phyrexian Altar. Kuldotha the Forge Master may well be the priciest card in the deck in terms of CMC, other than, well, Dargo himself. He's a 3/5 for 5 artifact construct, sack 3 artifacts, and tap him. Search your library for an artifact, put it onto the battlefield, shuffle. You're probably going to, engineer this out of your graveyard. You're not going to play this for 5. Thrill of Possibility, 1 and a red instant. Discard a card as an additional cost and draw 2. Then good old Wheel of Fortune, 3 mana sorcery, discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Everybody. And then Wheel of Misfortune is the new one out of Commander Legends. It's a little hard to break down, so we'll do it in pieces. So, each player is going to secretly reveal a number, 0 or greater, and then all players are going to reveal those numbers simultaneously. You need to then determine who has the highest and who has the lowest number. So, the players who guessed the highest number take that much damage. Then, every player who did not guess the lowest number discards their hand and draws 7. The player who draws the lowest number does not discard their hand, does not draw 7. The players who do not guess the highest number do not take damage. So basically, your highest roller takes damage, your lowest roller does not draw anything, and does not discard anything. And that's it. That's the card. It looks really complicated, but I promise it's easy. Everybody pick a number. Lowest does nothing. Highest takes damage. 3, 2, and 1 all discard their hand, draw 3. Got it? Cool. It's a complicated card, but it's pretty awesome, and it's pretty easy once you get used to playing with it. So, lastly, we're going to talk about our 0 cost. There's kind of a combination of some stacksy pieces in here, and then just some free stuff that's going to help us out to cast Dargo quickly. We got Chalice of the Void. The fact that you can play it as a 0 cost and turn off 0 cost spells is pretty cool. But also it's just free and we can sack, Dargo to it. Dark Sphere, 0. Tap, sack it, prevent half the damage done to you by a single source rounded down. You're probably never going to use it for that, but feel free to. You're probably going to sack it to Dargo. Darksteel Relic, you sack it to Dargo. Engineered Explosives. It's actually kind of cool to play it for 0 and blow up everything with no charge counters, so 0, but you're going to sack it to Dargo. Everflowing Chalice. Sometimes you will actually kick this. If you've got the extra mana and you don't have anything to spend it on, absolutely kick this and generate a little bit extra mana out of it before you sacrifice it to Dargo. Great Furnace is an artifact and a land. Gustha's Scepter. It's a 0-cost artifact, but it does do some things. When it leaves play or you lose control of it, put all cards exiled with Gustha's Scepter into your graveyard. You can tap it to put any card from your hand face down under Gustha's Scepter. And then tap, return any card under Gustha's Scepter to your hand. This is kind of a weird way to, dodge hand removal, I guess. I don't even think it's a bad card, actually. I was kind of surprised that this card existed. I'd never heard of it before, but it's also 0 cost, and you're going to sack it to Dargo. Jeweled Amulet. This is actually a little bit of a ramp piece. Pay 1, tap it, put a charge counter on it. Note what kind of mana was used to pay this. And then later, and you can only do this when there's no charge counters on it. And then later you can tap it to remove the charge counter and add the mana of the type noted. So this is kind of a card where, like, let's say you got a red mana in this, but nothing to really do with that red mana. You tap the red, you tap the amulet, bam, you get a charge counter for 1 red. It's a weird card. But either way, you can get a little bit of a bump out of this, and then sacrifice it to Dargo. Memnite, sacrifice it to Dargo. Mishra's Bauble, sacrifice it, get that card draw queued up, and bam, Dargo is reduced by 2. Ornithopter, you're sacrificing to Dargo. Phyrexian Walker, you're sacrificing to Dargo. Shield Spear, you're sacrificing to Dargo. And it's also an 0/6 for 0. Urza's Bauble, you're going to sacrifice to look at somebody's hand and later draw a card, and then reduce Dargo by 2. And then Welding Jar. This card's extra useful, because 1, it's a 0 cost, and 2, it lets you regenerate an artifact, like your Phyrexian Altar. So this deck, literally everything about this deck exists as a way to ramp Dargo out ridiculously fast, sacrifice a ton of stuff, and then get an endless cycle of sacrificing Dargo to a Phyrexian Altar or to a Thermopod, and then casting Jeska and killing everybody. And wouldn't you know it, this deck actually goes crazy fast, so let's really quickly do a play test of it. So here's a hand, Chromatic Star, Mox Opal, Buried Ruin, there we go. Yeah, this ain't bad at all, actually. Let's try it. Alright, we got a card. We're going to go Buried Ruin, we're going to go Mox Opal. Anything we can cast turn 1, I guess we can cast a Chromatic Star. Let's do that. That gets us a second artifact. We're 1 closer to turning on Mox Opal. Draw. Not a land. That hurts. But, let's see. Anything we can do here? Not really. That sucks. Actually, we can make a red mana. That's kind of helpful. Allow us to cast our Bolt, I guess. Nothing else, though. That's okay. We'll just pass. We can take the turn off. That hurts. There we go. Chrome Mox. We're going to exile our Bolt. That allows us to make a red. Man, we took a couple turns off there, but that's okay. So now we're actually kind of online. So we're going to tap this for a red, tap this for a colorless, and we're going to play our Goblin Engineer. This is going to allow us to search our library. Where is it? View all for a Phyrexian Altar. Put that altar into our graveyard, and then shuffle our library. Next turn, we're going to draw, play a land, finally. Whew, I was getting worried there. We're going to tap that, tap the Engineer. Then we're going to tap the Opal for a red, and then sacrifice it to bring Phyrexian Altar back. Now keep in mind, that is our first sacrifice of the turn. Right, so you're with me here? Cool. Alright, so we have reduced Dargo's cost by 2. Here, let's go ahead and show a mana tracker. So we're going to show it as 2. We've also generated, let's see, we have a red floating from our Mox Opal. We're going to go ahead and tap our Chrome Mox for red. Why not? We're going to tap our Buried Ruin and our Chromatic Star in order to generate a red. And then we're going to sacrifice the Chromatic Star, which allows us to draw a card. That's going to reduce Dargo's cost by 2 because we are casting Dargo. And then we are going to sacrifice our Goblin Engineer to the Phyrexian Altar, generate a red, and technically generate 2 more mana for Dargo. Now we're going to go ahead and reset our mana counter because we're going to only have 3 red in our pool. But we have a Dargo out. Look at that. And we've also just won the game because we've got Dargo, sacrifice to the altar, make a red. He goes to our command zone. We play him again, sack him to the altar, over and 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 over again. All the way until we finally decided that we've cast him enough, we sacrifice him one last time, and then we use the 3 mana that are going to remain in our pool from sacking Dargo, and this, and play Jeska, who's going to enter with a bajillion counters, and we minus X, and we win the game. Let's play a new game. See if we can go a little faster this time. Looks like this is actually more of a Staxy hand, but I think I'm okay with that. Yeah, let's do it. We're going to play a Snow-Covered Mountain. Next turn. Snow-Covered Mountain into a Cursed Totem. This is going to... Can I tap this? There we go. We're going to slow down the game a little bit with that Cursed Totem. Players can't play activated abilities of creatures. Next turn, another mountain. All right, let's play a Blood Moon. So now we've turned off people's creatures' abilities, and we have a Blood Moon on the board. That's definitely really, really annoying for a lot of people. Let's untap, let's draw. Looks like we're getting a lot of lands today. So we're going to play a snow-covered mountain. 1, 2, 3, 4. Play Duretti, scrap Savant. He comes in with 3. We're going to actually add 2 loyalty counters to him. To discard 2 cards and draw 2 cards. Very cool. Alright, next turn, we're going to play our Command Beacon. We're going to play a Soul Ring. We're going to play a Skirk Prospector. Not the Lightning Bolt, the Skirk Prospector. There we go. Yeah, let's go ahead and add 2 loyalty counters to Duretti again. And we'll discard the Bolt and the Kuldotha Forge Master to draw 2. Very good. Very nice. All right. We'll play out the Welding Jar here, but here's where things are going to get fun. I think next turn we're going to be able to get Kuldotha Forge Master onto the board. Now what's nice here is we're sitting here basically staxing people out. We got a Blood Moon, stopping people from using most of their mana. We've got a Cursed Totem here that's stopping people from using their creature abilities. It's stopping us from using our Skirk Prospector as well, but we're going to be able to take advantage of Dargo very, very shortly. So let's go ahead and just move to our next turn. All right, good. We have another piece of protection in our hand. We got 2 really, really solid cards here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to -2 on Duretti. We're going to sacrifice the Cursed Totem to bring back Kuldotha Forge Master. Look at that. All right, now all we need to do is survive 1 more turn cycle, and we can Dargo for the win. All right, let's go ahead and we'll pass the turn. We'll draw. It's another mountain. All right, we're going to tap. We're going to sacrifice Kuldotha Forge Master. We're going to tap this Soul Ring and add 2 colorless, and then we're going to sacrifice the Welding Jar. Let's go ahead and make our mana tracker here. So we have 2 colorless floating. We are now allowed to search our library. Right, how do we do that? There it is. Search our library for the Phyrexian Altar, which was the next card. Man, we could have Duretti'd for that too. That's funny. Not that we knew that was going to be the case, but now we have a Phyrexian Altar on board. All right, this is where the fun begins. So we've already sacrificed 1, 2, 3 cards this turn, right? 1, 2, and 3. All to Kuldotha Forge Master. Which means, very conveniently, we've already paid for almost all of Dargo. So we're going to just tap a red, play Dargo, sack him to the altar. Bam! 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 Over and over and over again. Sack him 1 more time to that altar. We still have the 2 colorless. That's 3 mana. Play Jeska, win the game. Let's do it 1 more time just to show you some speed here. Let's see if this is a speedier hand. This looks pretty decent. Yeah, let's go with it. There we go. Nice. We'll start with a snow-covered mountain. We'll play a Chalice of the Void for 0. And then we're going to tap, sacrifice the Chalice of the Void to play Kuldotha Rebirth to make 3 goblins. Let's see. Goblin, Goblin, Goblin. Cool. Alright. So we got 3 of these bad boys right here. Look at that. Oh, no, separate you 2. Thank you. So we got 3 beautiful goblins on turn 1. We're then also just going to play a Mox Amber to have it there. But we can't actually do anything with that yet. So we're going to go to the next turn. Play a snow-covered mountain. Sacrifice, 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 red. Play Dargo. Ridiculous. Look how fast that guy came out. Now, if we had a way to generate 1 more mana, we'd have won the game already. But we don't, so we're going to go ahead and hold on for right now. So we're going to move to the next turn. Dargo now has the ability to attack. So we're going to play, let's put our Command Beacon out. I think that seems fine. And then we're going to tap, let's go 1, 2, 3, play Jeska. She's going to come in with 2 counters on her. And we're going to 0 her and swing Dargo at one of our 3 opponents. They've just died due to commander damage unless they had a blocker, and even if they did have a blocker, we're going to have dealt a significant chunk of damage to them right there. We're then also going to play a Welding Jar for funsies. Next turn. Lion's Eye Diamond, very nice. So let's play our Arid Mesa. Let's tap and crack it. We're going to take a damage, and we will search our library for a mountain. There we go, comes in untapped. We can close this, and we can shuffle. We took our damage. Alright, so we got 4 mana just sitting here waiting for us now, right? We have the ability to just execute somebody else of our choice. So we're going to drop a Blood Moon to try and really stop people from, stopping us. We're also going to play a Landside Diamond. Just to have it out. We're going to 0 Jeska again and swing 21 points of damage at somebody. If they can't stop us, we've just taken out another opponent. There's a Shatter Skull Smashing. It doesn't even matter. 0. Take out the last opponent. Hopefully this shows you a little bit of how quickly a Dargo deck is able to just take over the game through a little bit of gold fishing. The fact that the deck just kind of takes its whole hand, dumps it onto the board, and wins with either a Phyrexian Altar or just a ridiculous amount of commander damage on turn 2, 3, 4, 5, playing through other people's abilities, playing through stacks, and it's really, really recurrent because Dargo can just reduce his cost massively, and you can even command Beacon Jeska back to your hand if you need to. I think this deck is really, really exciting, really fun, and really crazy for a mono red deck, and hopefully you're willing to give it a shot too if you're interested in the competitive Commander format. So please take a look, let me know what you think in the comments, let me know if there's other improvements you'd like to see done to the deck. I've been having a lot of fun talking in the Dargo Discord, which I will try and link down in the description so you can come join us talking about this insane Shipwrecker. He's a crazy, crazy card. And I'm also very excited about Jeska. They're built for each other. But yeah, if you enjoy this deck and you want to see more Commander decks, please let us know what you'd like to see in the comments. If you want to see more like this, please subscribe to MTG Friends. We'd love to have you. And leave us a like. We really appreciate that. So thanks again for watching. I've been Zach, and I really hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.